Now, I've been wanting to make this video for years now, but I've just been waiting for all of the conditions to align. Now today I'm going to be showing you how to photograph frozen bubbles. I literally haven't even left my house. I'm photographing them on the bonnet of my car. Now, as you can see from these bubbles here that I've blown onto the bonnet a couple of minutes ago, it's not as cold as I would like it to be today. Now, this is the second day of cold weather in a row. Yesterday was a bit more clear in the sky and it was actually colder. Yesterday was -3, today's -1. Yesterday was better, but luckily I've got some video clips that I can share with you, and I also got some pretty good photographs that I'm happy with. I would say that the sweet spot is if you live in places where it gets down to about -5, that's going to be much better. -3 yesterday, you can still get this to work. -1 today, I can see that the bubbles are not freezing as quickly. Okay, let me talk you through what you'll need in order to capture frozen bubbles. Now, of course, in order to make these, you're going to need some bubble mixture, and this sophisticated piece of equipment here is stolen from my child. This is probably just going to be from Tesco or Amazon, and you don't need this. I'm just borrowing this for the bubble wand. In here, I've actually mixed in with the bubble solution some corn syrup. Essentially what this does is it thickens up the bubble mixture, because if you put standard bubble mixture straight onto your surface, that's my car bonnet here, it will pop quicker. Whereas if you mix it in with a bit of corn syrup, I've mixed it about 50-50, but I'm sure that there are better mixture solutions, so experiment with that. That was giving me plenty of time, and I would say the majority of the bubbles survived. So yeah, 50-50, mix this up, stir it so that the corn syrup is well mixed in with the bubble mixture, and then from there, quite simply, you just blow the bubbles onto your surface, and then if you just observe the bubbles, you'll see that they gradually freeze from the bottom upwards. They're freezing from the bottom because that's what's touching the cold surface. And I'd say it takes about 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds in -3 conditions for the entire bubble to freeze. And it is really quite something to witness. You have to work very quickly. So you have to blow your bubbles onto your surface, quickly get your camera set up, make sure you've got all your settings dialed in ready, and then just observe. And at the beginning, you'll just have frost at the bottom of the bubble, but then I think the best photographs probably come when it's about 50, maybe 75% frozen, and you've just got the top of the bubble, which is still clear. That way you can still see all of the intricate, it kind of looks like a feather, the way that it grows and the frost kind of spreads out over the bubble. So I would say that the best results come when it's about 75% frozen. Now, in terms of the settings, one of the challenges you're going to come across is depth of field. I was using a 100mm macro lens at 1:1 reproduction, and that means that not much of your image is going to be in focus. I was shooting at f8, that's probably the smallest that I would go using that particular lens. And at f8 on a full frame camera is still not getting much in focus, considering you're photographing a sphere. And when deciding which part of the bubble should be in focus, you should be selecting the front surface of the bubble. The part of the bubble that is closest to your camera, that's what you should be focusing on. But that does mean that the majority of the rest of the bubble is going to be out of focus. Now, you've got a few options. You could make the aperture smaller, but that's not really going to solve the problem. I've also been doing some focus stacked images. If you've got a camera that allows in-camera focus stacking, you could rattle off 50+ images and get the entire bubble in focus. Of course, you don't have to get the whole thing in focus. A little bit of out of focus areas can be good, but we're talking about very, very small areas of intricate frozen detail that you really want to be in the photograph. I blew these bubbles about 5 or 10 minutes ago, and you can see that the majority of them is frozen, but it's not quite cold enough for them to completely freeze. And showing you this is what I'm going to get onto regarding composition and the backdrop, but you can see a frozen bubble on a white background is quite difficult to see. In terms of composition, what you're going to want is a nice clean backdrop. Now yesterday when I was blowing the bubbles on the bonnet, I was making sure that I was trying to get them around the edge, because if you've got a bubble bang in the middle of the bonnet, you're going to be kind of ruining the edges trying to get to it. Having the bubbles around the edge of your surface is going to make things much easier. Pick your surface so that you've got options in terms of a backdrop. Finally, I was trying to shoot yesterday using flash, and that didn't really work because the reflection of the flash was coming out in the top part of the bubble. I'd say if the entire bubble was frozen, you're not going to get the same sort of reflection, but bubbles, until they're frozen, act a bit like glass. So any highlight light source is going to be directly reflected in the surface of the bubble. So my advice is to keep an eye on the weather and already have the mixture, the bubble mixture and the corn syrup ready, prepared. I keep mine in the fridge because the closer that you can get that mixture to the temperature of the ice, the quicker it will freeze. If you scatter the bubbles around the outside of the car, you might be able to get a tripod close enough to the edge of your car so that you can shoot from a tripod. That's going to be the best way, although it is slightly restrictive in terms of getting a composition. But in order to make those videos where I showed the entire bubble slowly freezing over a minute or so, that was mounted on a tripod, and I literally just had the tripod butting up against the edge of the car. I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy a black car and this is what you should shoot it on, but I know that this is already going to be very cold, and therefore when the bubble hits the surface, it's not going to immediately pop because of the temperature difference. But generally, once you've got your settings dialed in, it's mainly about focus when it comes to macro photography. If you do take your camera off the tripod, I would just make sure that you've got all your settings dialed in, and then from that point onwards, it's just a case of going around and absolutely nailing the focus. So there you go, a nice quick tutorial for you. If you have a go at this, make sure that you tag me in the images on social media. If you've enjoyed this video, then consider watching this one next. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.